According to Windle 2011, translation is defined as an activity that aims at conveying messages of a linguistic discourse from one language to another, and there are various and thousands of importance in translation, especially in disseminating knowledge and ideas across the world. Translation requires us to transfer messages from one language to another, and the results of the translation must fit into the target language understanding. So, for this assignment, my group and I, we have chosen a book entitled Good Night, My Love, and it is published by Kiddos Books Limited. The authors of this book is Shelley Edmund, and she is one of the award-winning children's book author, and she has wrote about 75 books. The translator for the Malay version of this book is Nabilah Zailani, and she is a professional translator and a proofreader. Alright, so what is the book about? Good Night, My Love is about two people. The main character are two people, which are Alex and also his father. Alex finds it's hard to go to sleep, so he starts making excuses to his father. And lastly, Alex said to his father that he can't seem to find what to dream about when he went to sleep, so his father invented a dream for him. In the dream, Alex became a small bird that flew across the ocean, the forest, and also lands on the clouds. And while describing those beautiful details of the nature, his father also became one of the characters in the dream, where his father became the big bird that accompanied the small bird throughout the journey. So, when his father done describing the dream, he found that Alex falls asleep, and he and his wife is very happy with it. I think that's all for the synopsis, and I pass this presentation to my group. Thank you.
Now I'm going to explain why the literature is translated. So, Good Night, My Love is initially created in English language, and the phrase is then being translated into Bahasa Melayu as Selamat Malam Anakku. And this book has won the award for Reader's Favorite in 2019 International Book Awards as the gold medal winner in children's genre. And this book has been translated to 35 languages, including Spanish and Tagalog. So we're back to the question why it was translated. So children's stories are recognized to assist children make sense of their surroundings and to foster mental inquiry. And this is where storytelling and translation intersect, as children all around the world would enjoy the same stories in their own language. So the first procedure that we have found is that literal translation that the author used. So this technique is used frequently throughout this book. We believe this translation process is extensively used due to the similar word or the structure of the source language, which is English, to the target language, which is Bahasa Melayu. According to Binti 1995, a literal translation can only be used with languages that are culturally similar. It only allowed if the translated text keep the same grammar, same meaning, style as the original material. As you can see from beside me, this is the example that I have prepared. As you can see, let's see. With that, went downstairs and poured a glass of water for Alex. Bapa turun ke bawah dan menuangkan segelas air untuk Alex. Then, he climbed the stairs back up to the bedroom. Kemudian, beliau naik kembali ke bilik. You can examine how the sentence was translated word for word without affecting the word structure. So, the translator, you can see, is utilized literal translation, in which the dialogue was literally translated from the source text to the target text. And you can see also the both languages have the exact same structure and meaning.
Next, we have the transposition translation techniques. Transposition is one of the two opposite procedures that can be found in the translated text. This technique involves replacing one word class with another without changing the meaning of the source text. After analyzing the translated text, we found two examples of transposition used by the translator. Both of the excerpts has the same type of transpositions, which are the change in grammatical sentence structure from SL to TL. First, let's look at the first example. As you can see, the translator combined the two sentences from the ST into only one to suit the context flow. The translator also took the liberty to transport the word sekarang to the back of the TT and not at the beginning of the translated sentence. This is because if she translated it directly according to the ST structure, it will be minumlah, sekarang kamu boleh tidur. If she uses the same literal translation techniques throughout the text, the readers won't find it interesting to read, which is why she uses transposition in some of the translated texts. The same goes for example 2. The translator does not begin with jika kamu boleh jadi apa-apa sahaja, Alex, because the TT will sound more interesting and readable for children to understand the author's exact meaning in ST. These two examples proves that transposition techniques were essential in translation procedures. Lastly, we have the equivalence translation techniques. This techniques is also one of the oblique translation techniques that was used by the translator in Selamat Malam Sayangku. Equivalence is a procedure that replicates the same situation as in the SL text while using completely different wording. This is according to Vinay and Darbilnet 1995. It also allows the translators to preserve the meaning of an expression, idioms, or proverb by finding a similar meaning as a target language equivalent. After reading and analyzing the text of Good Night My Love, we found that the translator used this technique the most in the translated document, second only after literal translation techniques. The translator decided to use idiomatic expressions such as the highlighted sentence in TT to express a more suitable meaning that is equivalent to the ST. She gives the same meaning of the ST but added a flair of words so that the readers of the TT could understand. Direct translation will not be able to express the meaning of the ST, and that is why oblique translation was used. Secondly, fluffy white cloud pillows express how the cloud was like a pillow according to the author, an idiom for an idiom, and that is why the translator used an equivalent idioms to express the whiteness and softness of the cloud, which are the highlighted phrases in TT. If the translator used direct translation, such as literal translation or calc, the meaning would be different when translated into TT, and so using equivalence is essential in translating this book. That's all from me. Thank you.
According to raisingchildren.com, an Australian parenting website, when we read books or listen to storytelling before we went to bed, it can promote brain development and imagination, develops language and emotions, and many more. That's just how important reading is. However, some books are not available in our language. For example, the book is only available in Mandarin and there is no Malay version. So this keeps readers, which in this case, kids, one step away from discovering new stories and tales. So that is when translation is put into action. In this video, I will give my review for Good Night, My Love and its Malay translated version, Selamat Malam Anakku. The author used simple words and sentences and the target audience is kids. For instance, instead of using a more high-level word, the author chose a more easy-to-follow type of word, such as bird and beautiful. Other than that, the author created an interesting plot with engaging language to grab the reader's attention. She used a lot of distinct adjectives such as fluffy, cool, and warm, and many more, and this can keep kids engrossed with the story. Be it the original or the translated version, both succeed in entertaining the readers with their plot and engaging language. The translator did a great job in translating the story into Malay with an expression that is natural to the native speaker, which in this case, Malay language. The Malay native speaker find it easy to understand the story because the translated version sounds inherent in the target language. The procedures used by the translator that was being discussed in this analysis are literal translation, transposition, and equivalence. The quality of the translation using all these procedures is good enough where the translated document meets most of the standards and basic requirements. However, there are some inconsistent and inaccurate translations that we found from the translated version. The most prominent inconsistency in this translation is the word son. At some part, the translator translated it as anak and later use the word anak with a suffix ku at the back. The word son is in the original document is associated with the element of endearment, such as the following excerpt taken from the original version as you can see on the slides. The correct translation should be anakku instead of anak because the former brings a more affectionate meaning and commonly used by parents in Malaysia to call their children, hence more accurate. People don't intrinsically address their kids anak on a daily basis because it sounds unusual. So, the improvement that can be done is the translator should find the most equivalent term to translate the word. Also, the translator should be consistent in translating by using only one word as the target translation for the word son. Other than inconsistency, there is some translation that is not accurate and should be revised in accordance with the target language. For example, the translator used the word maka for then as in the table below. Based on Cambridge Dictionary, then can be defined in several ways, such as adjectives and linking adverbs. Based on the above excerpt, it is clear that the author used then as a linking verb. Some of the meanings for then in English are at the time, next or after, and in that case. It might sound confusing, but if we were looking carefully into the sentences as a whole, we could actually find the most accurate meaning to be translated into the target language. In this case, sounds more accurate as the word then was used as a linking adverb to link the sentence with the previous one. So, the more suitable translation should be kalau begitu. Another inaccurate target translation is the phrase memanjat tangga, which the translator used as an equivalence to the phrase climb the stairs. The more accurate translation should be menaiki tangga, as it sounds more natural in the target language. In the nutshell, the most frequent procedure used is literal translation, as most sentences can be translated without altering the meaning. As for oblique translation, the procedures were not being utilized as much as the literal translation, as most of the sentences are structurally possible to be translated. Even though there are some inconsistencies and inaccurate translation in this book that the translator should work on, the audience still managed to understand the content of the message since the book used simple vocabularies in it.
In conclusion, translation is very important for the continuance of dissemination of new information, knowledge of idea across the world. Language barriers should not be a problem anymore since there are a lot of procedures that can be utilized to solve this problem. All things considered, the quality of Malay translation of Good Night My Love, which is Selamat Malam Anakku, is an excellent translation. Even though there are quite a couple of flaws, despite the flaws, it managed to convey the story perfectly as the original book. The vocabulary chosen for this book is also suitable for the target audience, which is kids. I'm also very thankful the translation version of this book because it can be read by those who cannot understand English but have Malay as their own native language.